more common ones is that I'm going to get someone who will come that will have frozen shoulder, some kind of rotator cuff problem, and look, the arm won't lift or it doesn't lift like it used to.
Michael, I want to thank you for coming here this early morning. After coming in last night, you flew in last night. From
That's
where?
right. Oita.
Oita. And what were you doing
Kyushu.
up there? Not that I'm getting all in your business, just curious.
The short version of it is that I wanted to go to Beppu. I've never been to Beppu. It's one of the famous onsen towns in Japan.
You told me.
Yeah. And the other thing is that during the pandemic, I really took up hiking with a kind of a serious interest.
Which you'd never done before?
No.
Okay.
I was a long-distance athlete for about 10 years. Marathons, triathlons.
But you started that kind of late in life, too.
I started that late in life, 29, 30.
Let's start off back, because you sound very similar to me in a way, but my reasons for starting late were a little bit different than yours, probably. Where were you born?
Dallas, Texas.
So you're Texan?
No.
Okay.
And I don't say that negatively, but I was only there for 3 years.
All right.
My father was in the military.
Okay. What
And he
branch?
was Army, but stationed with the Air Force.
Okay. That happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have siblings?
I did. I had one brother, and he passed away 5 years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that. Is he older or younger?
Younger.
Younger? How many years difference?
3.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And were you guys close?
Yeah, in a way. We lived far apart, and certainly after I moved out and went to college, life took us in very different directions. We never spent a whole lot of time together, but yeah, we were close.
Okay. Did he have a family?
No.
Okay.
No, he had not married.
Right. So mom and dad, are they still together?
My father passed away 4 years ago.
Okay. Had they stayed together the whole time?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And how's mom doing?
Yeah, well, it's the pandemic, right? And she's alone, so, it's what it is. But yeah, I talk to her a couple times every week. She's doing well.
Where did she end up?
Okay, so after the military, what they ended up doing was going back to their hometown, which is Eastern North Carolina.
Okay.
And then life took them other places, and eventually to California. And when my father's career with the telephone company ended, they went back to North Carolina, and he took another job there. And since that job was kind of statewide, meaning he was traveling constantly, they could go wherever they wanted, and they chose to go back to their hometown.
Was he in communications when he was in the Army? Was he part of that section?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was in comms.
Yeah.
So where would you call home? I mean, you were military. All of your life he was in the military?
No.
Okay.
He did one tour, and this was prior to the Vietnam War. And as the story goes, my mother, felt not good for him to go to war, so he stopped after the one tour.
Okay.
I think he wanted to stay, but she didn't want him to, and that's how it turned out.
So where would you call home in the States? Where did you spend the most time, rather, in your formative years, which is actually elementary to age 12? Well,
because my father worked for the telephone company, they moved him about every 4 years. So to be frank, I can say North Carolina broadly because I was there all the way through my undergraduate degree.
Okay.
But one particular city I can't say because we lived in 5 different places.
Where were they? Where did you live?
So we lived in Rockingham, we lived in Charlotte, we lived in Lenore.
Wait, these are cities?
These are cities.
But in what state?
All in North Carolina.
All in North Carolina. So the state you lived in
was North Carolina from age 3 till 23.
Okay.
And then I went to graduate school out in California, and I stayed there for about 6 years.
Right.
Before moving to Tokyo. So at this point, Tokyo's been over half my life.
Over half your life, yeah. That happens pretty quick.
It does.
It happens pretty quick when you find a place that matches your personality, your funky.
Yeah.
What did you study in college?
My undergraduate degree was literature.
Okay.
And my master's degree, I studied creative writing at San
That's
Francisco
what I was
State.
going to say. You told me you like to write.
Yeah. So by the time I was finished with school, I could, go and apply for jobs and say, I can write you a poem.
Right.
Yeah.
So, have you written anything? Have you any books, or do you have anything out?
I've not written books. I've written. I'm quite well published.
Okay.
Articles.
In like which magazines or?
When I came to Japan, I got into marketing.
Okay.
I took a job in advertising, so I wrote a lot in terms of communications. I wrote about brands and just the communications industry here. Since then, I've started writing a little bit about Japan from a travel point of view, because I've started doing that a lot.
Was that part of this trip?
It's a good question. It's funny. I was sitting on the airplane last night and started scribbling notes, some things.
So that was the only writing you did?
Yeah.
Because you were enjoying those onsens too much. See, this was really a downtime for you. You were recharging. For what reason?
Okay, so now you shift the conversation. It is true that I was recharging,
right?
But part of the reason I'm recharging is because Central Tokyo is full on all the time, no matter what you try to do.
Right.
And this is something that the pandemic has really taught me. It's taught me this because I started getting out of Tokyo. I started bicycling places. I started getting, I either bicycle somewhere and hike, or I take the train somewhere and hike. And when the pandemic was at its worst, nobody wanted to take the trains. I would just bicycle. I'd ride up to Gunma, I'd ride to Nagano, ride a couple times up to Chichigi, and check in somewhere and just hike. Definitely clued in to the notion that you need nature to recharge.
Okay. Are you married?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you have children?
No.
That's why you look so happy?
You said that the other day, yeah.
That's why I say to everyone that doesn't have kids, because once you have kids, you understand why. Sometimes you see people walking around with a grimace. It's not because they don't love their kids, but because I don't care if you live in the country. There's something about having someone that mirrors you. And I always say that our children don't represent our future, they represent our past.
Yeah.
Because the only thing we can teach them is what we've already learned.
What you've experienced.
But they throw that right back at you. That's something. So you're in your world. So is your wife Japanese?
Yes.
Is she also a yogi?
I think to really be a yogi, and this is, I'm being kind of strict now with the terminology, but you cannot be a household owner and be a yogi. To be a yogi is to be a monk.
Gotcha.
You know too many monks that have a two-car garage, and
you can't have any possessions, right?
It's not so much the possessions, but your focus is on the spiritual life.
I understand. It's not on the material life.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, in that sense, no.
Right. But do you have material things that you're interested in?
Not especially.
What about your bike?
That's the material thing.
I know, but you're interested.
And I love that bicycle.
Okay, so I'm talking because I've seen you on it. The way that you pump it, the pace. I'm very observant of people. And before we even talked, before I met you, I used to see you move. And I said, this guy's long distance because your pace is consistent and it's not too fast, but it's just consistent. And you're just doing your thing, you're on your way.
But sometimes I fly.
I haven't seen you, I missed that. Not where we're at, not where
you
know, we fly around this area.
not Minatoko, but get me out a little bit.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But you like to just go for it. Well, you would love riding in Hokkaido if you like straightaways.
Yeah, the thoughts cross my mind to throw the bike on the train and go up. But Japan is everyone says Japan is a small country, but there's a lot of places
of space
to go.
in between there.
Yeah.
Small compared to what?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this trip was to Kyushu. Right? This was only my third time to Kyushu.
Okay.
All these years, just 3 times to Kyushu.
Because you've been in Japan for how many years now?
30 and a half.
Okay. All right. Do you see yourself being here indefinitely, or do you plan on leaving?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at a certain point, you start thinking, how am I going to fit in anywhere else, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I did that when I went to France, thinking I would take my business there. Didn't take long. Didn't take a day. And I said, you just really start thinking, you have to build the same environment that you have where you are.
Yeah.
And it's hard to create that, and you're sure not going to change the people. So, back to Japan I came.
Yeah.
Well, what do you love about Japan? What do you find attractive?
Living here is easy, and I don't want to overemphasize this either, but to a degree I didn't experience in America anyway, people kind of prioritize harmony. And I don't want to say that America is unharmonious. You know, America is obviously a vibrant culture, and you can't have a vibrant culture unless people agree on things, at least to a degree that you could live together, right? It's easy to live here. And the food's great. If you live in central Tokyo, you get the best of modern urban culture. And for me, nature's not that far away. So I've always worked with my body. For my first 10, 11 years here in Japan, my chosen sport was running. And
you weren't into yoga when you first came?
My yoga background goes back to when I was a teenager. So that's when I was introduced to yoga.
And did you continue from that time all the way through, or did you have any breaks?
I can't say that.
Okay,
no, because I was introduced to yoga by my Asian religions teacher in university. And so...
Wait. I thought you said you first did it when you were what? 15? 18. So you were in university at 18. Yeah. You started in university. That's when you were introduced to by your Asian studies?
Yeah. I mean, because the reading, the syllabary for that course included books like the Bhagavad Gita, and we read little selections from the Upanishads. So that's what this guy was into, mainly. Mm-hmm. It was meant to be a survey, right? It's just for freshmen, right? Okay. He also, as extracurricular activity, introduced asana classes. Asana is the physical practice of yoga, right? And so that was where I first learned it. Now this is North Carolina, right, in 1981. So yoga, there were no yoga studios.
That's what I was going to say. Where did he? Was this just a mental exercise, or did you actually physically?
No, we did the physical. We did the physical practice too.
Where did he take you to do this?
We used a room at the university.
He made a yoga room.
No, it wasn't. No, you know, it's a university that has gym space.
Okay,
and
so he just got a space.
Yeah, I can't even remember exactly where the room was, but it wasn't part of the literature building. It was more part of the complex where there was the gymnasium.
And how many students were there?
Correctly, 20 to 30.
Okay, but what attracted you to it? Or you just felt that I'm gonna find out what this is all about, or?
You're 18, right? So you're just on a trip to kind of discover.
But you could have been going in any kind of direction.
Yeah, but I always had the interest in Buddhism. I had an interest in Eastern religion, even though I knew nothing about it. Right? Okay. So anyway, so that was my introduction to yoga, and the idea stuck. And when I was in graduate school in California, I took another course. I actually took a course at the university in yoga, and visited a couple of the studios, because by this time studios were starting to pop up more and more, and particularly in San Francisco you'd find a bunch of them.
After you finished university, then you went to California, you said?
No, after I finished undergraduate. And I was but I went to California specifically for graduate school.
Right, but your major was writing, literature?
Literature is an undergraduate, creative writing
right.
at the graduate level, yeah.
So you went to California because you're going to write for Hollywood scripts and stuff, and that's what your goal was.
No.
Come on, let's get with it. Come on. You said, I'm going to be a screenwriter.
I wish you'd been my agent at that time, right? I think I would have followed a more kind of straight path.
But yours was more like planes. But
it's still that.
Okay.
It's still that very much.
Well, all of us are. Yeah. We just tend to like to draw a straight line. Nobody is a straight line.
No, I worked on fiction writing.
Okay.
Fiction writing was the thing.
And you had a story?
The smarter thing would have been maybe to have gone down to LA. And I pondered it, actually. At the end of graduate school, or the end of the MA, I was thinking, okay, PhD. So I did. I went down to UCLA, and I looked at the university, and it was a fun weekend. And I went back, and it wasn't that long after that I defended my master's thesis and flew to Japan.
Okay. So from San Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
how did that... Okay, you always had interest in Asian studies anyway, you said.
Yeah.
Okay. How did Japan pop?
Okay, this is a whole other story, right?
Well, it's still part of the same story. Were you around because you were around a lot of Asians, or you guys had an attraction towards Asians, or? And
I got a friend in the Peace Corps in a country in Africa that nobody's heard of, Malawi.
Okay.
And he's finishing up his thing there, and he says, yeah, if you're going to come and visit me, it's now or never. I thought, okay, I'm just going to put a pause on the graduate school thing, and I'm going to go there. And I ended up spending about 6 months there. It was fun.
Okay.
And it was really eye-opening. I'd done a little bit of international travel up to that point, but just a little bit. And
was that your first time outside of the United States?
No, I had in undergraduate school I went to Europe.
Okay.
And the language I was studying then was German, and German's too hard, but it was fun. The German beer was great. Africa was the first time put on a backpack and just really have no destination in mind.
Except for to go see him.
No, but once I was there with him, he was still working at the Peace Corps, right? So I had spent some time with him, and then I had time to go here, time to go there, and then after that he finished, and then we traveled together for a while. And this is a long way to saying that when we were on a safari at one point in Kenya, I got really sick, had a fever, and just couldn't get up. And the person who took care of me was another person who was on the safari, and that was a Japanese woman. And so I thought, yes, okay, Japan. And now that's kind of an exaggeration, but so that was one thing with Japan. And then later on we hooked up with these other people Canadian guy that had just finished teaching English in Japan and was took his money and was going to travel, and he was from Japan. And I thought, okay, this is a second indicator of Japan. And then I got back to the States, started participating in this program where graduate students from Japan who were going to university in the U.S. wanted to meet people who had an interest in Japan, and it was kind of a language exchange thing. So I started studying a little bit Japanese, met this guy, and he's an interesting guy, and played chess and shogi, and I learned a few more things about Japan.
Was he Japanese? No.
Yeah, Japanese guy.
Japanese guy.
Yeah, he was working for Nomura.
Okay.
Nomura Shogun.
Okay.
And they had sent him over to get an MBA. And so anyway, it's just something we'd meet once a week as a language exchange thing. His English was pretty good, but it definitely probably helped, and ended up being the best man at his wedding.
So you guys really had a friendship.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. Are you still in contact with him?
It's been a while.
Okay.
We kept it after I came to Japan. We met pretty much every year, once or twice.
Where does he live? Where's he live now?
I have no idea. I'm
But
assuming he's still at the headquarters with Nomura because he was a bright guy.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't seem to have any intention of moving on anywhere else. But yeah, I should get in touch with him.
Yeah. I have some friends like that too.
Mm.
But they're going to be there, and it's not going to be like you've lost any time when you get back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those are the kind of friends it's nice to have. So then you decided after that, you had these 3 experiences with Japan, basically.
Yeah. And so I enrolled in a language, City College of San Francisco, enrolled in a Japanese language class and started learning the basics of the language. And I knew after the graduate degree that if I wasn't going to continue to study, if I wasn't going to enroll in a PhD program, I was going to travel. And I didn't have a lot of money at that point. I mean, you could actually say I had almost no money, but I had enough money for a plane ticket. Okay. And I knew one person in Japan, and he seemed to be open to my, crashing at his place at least for a few weeks till I got on my feet. Right. And and so that's the rest. That's the story.
That's how you came.
I came here, and within a day I had a job. It wasn't the job I expected. I came here expecting to get a job at a newspaper.
Of course.
But this was right at the tail end of the bubble, and the newspapers were already kind of like cutting budgets, or they were not expanding. Mm-hmm. And so my interviews at the English language dailies did not go that well, and not enough to make me think that they were going to give me a job anytime in the near future. Mm-hmm. And I met somebody who hooked me up with an interview as a copywriter in an ad agency.
Well, so still writing. You still got a job writing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and so it was an easy thing for me, because
right.
I have supreme confidence in my writing. Went in and I thought, advertising. And then they told me how much they were going to pay me, and I thought, gosh, 2 years I can save enough money to go to to go back and go to film school or go to PhD or whatever, my million ideas, right? Or just travel, keep traveling. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to stay at least a year, because that's what the contract was for. At the end of that contract, I signed another one, 2 years, and then another one, 3 years, and then I got married.
Oh, so you met her along that journey?
She was working at the company. She was working at the parent company for the creative agency I was working for.
Okay.
And then we got married, and then she left the company, and then after that she worked freelance as a translator and advertising coordinator, I guess you'd call her. And I kept working, and then I switched companies and worked for a bigger ad agency here, and I did that up until 2011.
And then you haven't worked for a company since 2011?
No, I made my own independent copywriting business, writing business, creative business at that point.
And
I continue that.
And have an income from that?
Yeah.
Okay. But Yogatree, that's your business, that's your company?
Yeah, that's our company, my wife and myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But does she do yoga at all, or is she just your partner?
No, she does.
She's not a teacher, though.
She does teach.
Okay.
Right now, she's not teaching at the studio. The pandemic kind of ended her classes. Her classes were privately arranged classes where she taught restorative yoga.
Okay.
And her classes came to an end, and she hasn't put them back on.
Okay. So tell me, what are your plans from this time forth? I mean, you've been doing yoga all this time, and you have a thriving business. I mean, you have devoted clientele, there's no doubt about it. Lululemon loves you, doesn't love me. But anyway, put your picture up there.
We need to have a discussion with them. Let's set up a time. Let's set up a meeting.
I need to get on Lululemon just so I can be there like this. All those you told me about, all the pictures they took of you in different poses, and then they ended up with one of you like this or something, just sitting up, not even in a yoga pose.
I didn't really discuss with them their strategy for it. I didn't. I mean,
right, for taking all the poses.
But yeah, they brought the photographer in. And
they just want to make sure you could do it before they put you up there, I guess, or something, right?
No, they'd been taking my classes. They knew what I could do.
Okay.
I know that Lululemon, one of the things that as a brand they're very serious about is the idea of diversity. Okay, and when we think about diversity, a lot of it is LGBTQ, right?
Well, they're the loudest. I mean, yes.
Yeah, but I don't think it's purely that. I think that Lululemon really does look for diversity in terms of race, in terms of age, in terms of the different things when they choose their ambassadors. If you look at all the photos of them, you see that it really is multicultural, and it's anyway. So there's that, and so I have a feeling that with the photography, they weren't looking just for people who could do the most difficult postures or things like that. I don't think that they wanted that to be their image of the brand, and it makes sense to me.
I see.
I'm a bit physically gifted, flexible, and reasonably strong. So doing yoga postures for me is nothing. Within a year, I can do most of these things from an outward view of it.
I see.
Yeah. If you're just looking at a picture of it, it's like, oh wow, the guy must be practicing yoga for a long time.
Right. But you look as far as your structure and everything, right?
You take an acrobat and just tell them the shape that you want, and you look at them and you think, gosh, must be living in some mountain in the Himalayas for the last 30 years, exactly. Right? And it's like, no, I've never done any yoga.
But you have looser ligaments or longer ligaments and tendons, and that makes a big difference. I know kids used to say all the time to me that they thought they were double joints. There's no such thing. You don't have two joints there. What you have are loose ligaments and tendons that allow you to put your finger back there.
Exactly.
That's the only difference. Some people have tighter ones.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest difference. It's not the muscle, it's the tendons and the ligaments.
Yeah.
If those are extended or cut, like some people do that, I understand they used to do that for gymnasts in China. They said they cut their inner tendons, which
Yeah.
is really painful, but then
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
gave them mobility that you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And other problems can come up too if you don't build up the muscle properly. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are your plans for the future?
My plans for the future? Well, to the degree that I make any plans, there's going to be more mountain climbing.
And you're really enjoying that.
I am.
You've done it for 5 years now.
It's like just a little bit more than a year now.
Oh, a year now? When did you start? You said you started hiking, maybe?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No, all this stuff is new for me.
All this is new.
It's all new. This is all post-pandemic, or not post-pandemic. It's all pandemic-related activities. I mean,
Okay.
I'm always looking for new things.
Right.
And-
In what field? In what area? Because, I mean...
I'm looking for new things. For me, a lot of it is physical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a physical person in that sense, right? So for my whole life, I've looked for whatever athletic
Have you
challenges.
bungee jumped yet?
Have I?
Bungee jumped.
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
I haven't done that yet.
Are you wanting to?
Not anymore. I used to, but I'm just concerned about the response
Yeah.
after that, and not fear. Of
Yeah, I was in
anything other
my
than just
30s when I did it. So.
Yeah, I'm just worried at this time because I can raise my arm and pull my back. I mean, I'm worried about that. Should it snap and make my body do something I don't expect it to do? And my head isn't. I'm not relaxed for some reason. That's what I'm concerned about. But I will skydive.
And you've done that?
No, I've been in the tunnels, the air tunnels. I've
Okay.
done that, and begged the guy to let me go. I said I can handle myself, but you need to have someone with you at the beginning because it can.
Yeah, I'm sure.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But that's
Now that
something
sounds
I
pretty
enjoy.
exciting too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can do that. If you have the funds, you can do it enough times that you can become pretty good. You really go through it. So my son gave that to me as a gift, and I tend to want to carry things on. But I want to skydive. I want to do that. That I can handle, I think. So what are your aspirations? What other things do you think you like? Do you like to get on vehicles of any type, or is it just mostly just things you can do with your body?
It's mostly things I can do with my body. I've always wanted to. It's taken me a while. It's taken me arguably all the way up to now to really recognize it. And I think that probably if you ask me this question 5 years from now, I'll give you the same answer. It's taken me up to now to really realize it. But, life doesn't have stopping points. We tend to think that
until
you have the big stopping point.
That's right.
Yeah, we tend to think, oh yeah, okay, so I got to this point and I realized all this, and it's not. It's just it just continues.
Isn't that something? I feel that when they get people degrees, that's one of the worst things you can do to somebody.
Yeah.
They look at that paper and think, "Nah, you're finished."
Yeah, yeah.
That's just one of the stops on your journey.
That's one of my real issues involving yoga. You know, I'm going to use the words, but these words came from my teacher. She said, the 200-hour teacher's training program, or the 200-hour teacher certification, was the worst thing that ever happened to the world of yoga. People get the certificate and they think I'm done.
My journey's complete.
Yeah, or the stage of it's complete, or
Right.
whatever. And it's not.
You said to me the other day that there's no way. There's so many people that have that are hurting so many other people because they don't realize it's a journey. It's not a destination.
There's that, and I mean, you're going to be able to say this about any sport. I mean, you have a gymnastics background, and you can say it about. I know that you can have that. You can start to say the same things that I'm saying, but yoga is a pretty big thing. There's a big world out there, meaning that yoga is going to have its spiritual side. It's got its philosophical side. It's got its physical practice side. It's got its therapeutic side. And 200 hours is a drop in the bucket for any portion of it. And particularly most people who go through the 200-hour program, they're there to teach the physical practice and maybe have some bit of awareness that there's a therapeutic side to it. if you don't have a pretty good sense of the two together, it's pretty easy to hurt people.
Mm-hmm. Just because of your lack of knowledge.
Because of your lack of knowledge.
Okay.
You're teaching things that don't work for the body, or you're teaching things that you heard somewhere, it kind of felt okay for you, or maybe even just the knowledge has changed. Like, we used to teach this, and then what we found is that actually it was really hurting people long term.
But can't you find also that everyone's structure is a little different?
Say it again.
And
the
everyone's
body.
structure, so you have to understand
The physical
that,
structure, yeah.
the person you're working with.
Absolutely.
And their structure and their ability, how tight their tendons might be, and ligaments and stuff, compared to someone who might have looser ones.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do pretty much when I teach.
Okay.
I've been doing it for so long now, I can make a pretty quick appraisal of somebody's body just in the first, say the first class.
Mm-hmm.
Watch what they do, and you can see largely what their background is in sports, injuries, imbalances. But it takes a long time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no instruction manual for recognizing it, just because the diversity of different things in the body, the different body types is so vast. There's no way to have a manual for it.
Right. So you're still learning. I mean, that's why
absolutely.
you can. So you'll see someone, you say, "No, I've never seen that before."
I've never seen that.
So let me see if, and then you're constantly trying to keep a good communication with the person as you work with them.
Of course.
Right.
And where I am now is I'll get a lot of people who come with specific medical issues,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll say, what can I do for this?
What are some of the more common ones?
Well, before I answer that, let me say that I have no medical training. And so when people come to with medical issues, I'm very clear to say I have no medical training. I say, okay, let's look at things. I tell you what I know. Then you go to your doctor or your healthcare provider, whether it's a doctor or acupuncturist or whatever, and get some appraisal. And if it seems to make sense, then you come back to me. That's the way I generally work. And I'm not going to get medical training at this point. I'm not going to go back to school. But I have a fair amount of knowledge when it comes to imbalances in the body.
Mm-hmm.
I get people who will come to me with things like edema, for instance, or I'll get people who come to me and ask if. Okay, let's look at just more like the physical ones.
That's one of the common ones?
No, that's
Okay.
that one happened recently.
Okay.
More common ones is that I'm going to get someone who will come that will have frozen shoulder,
Okay.
some kind of rotator cuff problem, and look, the arm won't lift, or it doesn't lift like it used to. Another really common one is sacroiliac problems. Sacroiliac problems meaning that probably stems from something in the hip, too much sitting, too much weight. And all of these things are, I believe, addressable with a good yoga practice. It's not a panacea. You're not going to start practicing yoga and it's going to fix it. But a well thought out yoga program inherently has a way of balancing the body. And one of the other aspects, when it's well taught, is that yoga has the quality of inducing relaxation. And a body under stress can't heal. And so without that component of being able to put the mind in a place where it can relax, can the body start to heal? So people who have injuries, or they have the body starting to have some kind of disease, I think yoga can be a real source of healing. I'm not saying it's a panacea.
But it's just one of many things that can help you get to a state of better health and a better condition.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a slight. I can twist it a little bit and talk about it in terms of what you do. You told me that with your I Can program, you are not teaching gymnastics or tumbling or whatever so much as you're teaching confidence. Okay, so that's just seeing body and mind together. And it's the same thing that yoga does. And my point about healing is I get people who come and you know, they're my age or say a little older, and the body's starting to, you know, it's having this problem or it's having that problem, and that's natural in life. But usually what I notice about the people who are coming with a laundry list of problems is they don't have the ability to relax. People take relaxation, they think, oh yeah, okay, so after this interview I'm just going to, you know, like, chill out and relax. Well, it's not going to happen. I mean, relaxation, like anything else, takes practice. You know, try to sit and make your mind still for 30 seconds. If you can do that, then we can talk about your ability to relax. If you can't do that, then you're not even at the first step.
That's interesting. So interesting. I do practice meditation.
Okay, then
Constantly.
You can relax.
Yeah. Even this.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is for me not to say anything when someone's speaking to me?
I've had more informal conversations with you. I know, you like to talk.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But I do it, and I'm getting better at it. That's
I can
my
tell.
meditation.
Yeah.
Because I just find myself really getting into what the person's saying and stop answering him for himself. Let him answer.
Yeah.
No,
I
got the answer. I got the
Yeah.
answer. You can see them.
I can see that you're well practiced. Yeah.
Okay.
You're better at it than I. Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be. But I find it's so therapeutic for me. It is so good. It's something that I haven't spent a lot of time doing. I've been the teller, the advisor, the fixer, the sage.
Right. Yeah.
It's time to stop that. I'm on the second half of my life. I want to see if I can do it differently, and if this enhances things a little bit more. Just the journey.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So what do you see for the future? What do you see for your future?
Well, I'm going to continue to teach. I'm going to continue to write. In what form it turns out, I have no idea.
Are you still a fiction writer? You're doing nonfiction too now?
About a year ago, I resumed fiction writing after probably a 15-year hiatus. I had not really worked on any fiction seriously in more than 10 years. And then I had some events in my life that inspired me to start writing fiction again.
Like what?
I won't go into those.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I won't go into those.
Oh,
But there were events that made an interesting story.
Okay.
And then, of course, the story has to be fictionalized. So if it gets published and the stuff sounds too out there, don't think, oh, this is what he really did. No, I'm pretty good at fictionalizing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
All right.
So yeah, I'm continuing to write, and I mentioned one other thing. So again, I laid out there's these different worlds of yoga, right? Or different attributes, different aspects of it. And the big one for most people is the asana. The asanas, you just translate that as postures, right? So the physical practice. If you look at yoga if you were to step back and look at it from a historical point of view, it's a pretty small part of it. But anyway, it is what it is. That's the way what people think of as yoga nowadays. And so there's a lot of teachers out there. And even in a place like Japan, where yoga's taken a while to kind of catch up, there's still a lot of good teachers in Japan as well. So my teacher, one of my really early teachers, he's a bit of an academic in some ways, or had an academic background, but when he stopped all of that and he just went and lived in Asia. He came to Japan first, he went to Taiwan, then he went to the Himalayas and Thailand, and just that's it, right? He just went completely. He's a yogi. Okay, so anyway, so he taught like everybody else. He taught the asana, and he was going around teaching at workshops here and there, He wasn't rooted at that point. So, he came to Japan once a year, go to Thailand once a year, go to Ireland once a year. Anyway, by the time I met him, he had the asana part of it, but you could tell it wasn't really his thing. What he wanted to teach was pranayama and meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And pranayama, people think of it as breathing, but it's basically breath work, or we'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically breath work as a gateway to meditation, and that was his thing. And he had a website. It was called Beyond the Asana, beyondtheasana.com. And absolutely, if you get to the point where you can start to practice pranayama well and use it as a gateway to meditation, it is a much more interesting, it's bigger in scope and it's greater in depth than what you'll get from working with the body through physical postures.
Mm.
So I'm kind of on that same road. My body hasn't given up the physical part of it. You saw me do the handstand the other day. My handstand's actually getting better at age 58.
Good. Wow. And you just learned that a year ago?
No. The handstand I learned at age 40.
John taught you that at age 40?
No. John did not teach me the handstand. I learned handstand from yoga teachers.
Oh, I thought that he taught you the handstand.
No.
Well, then he improved your handstand.
He improved my handstand.
Okay, so you already
He gave me
handstand.
Gymnastics techniques that
worked.
are not really used in yoga.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it fixed, like if you've seen my handstand before, I'll tell you, this is my handstand. I'm flexible, right? So my arms go back easily
Mm-hmm.
behind my ears, even now, at this time of the morning, right? In this temperature.
Right.
It's...
Gotcha.
The shoulders are flexible. So my handstand for the first year was jump up, fall back into a back bend.
Mm-hmm.
Jump up, fall back into a back bend.
Jump up on, okay. That's what you thought it was a handstand.
I didn't know, I knew that wasn't a handstand. I wanted to balance, but I didn't mind falling over. That was fun.
Okay.
And then I developed the ability to fall over and then jump back up.
I got you, okay.
And so that's what I did.
But you weren't able to just hold it?
I couldn't hold it.
I got you, okay. So you weren't doing a handstand. We won't call that a handstand.
You wouldn't.
No.
Yeah. And then I developed the ability to balance. But it was a pretty delicate matter. It's like sometimes I'd hit it and sometimes I wouldn't.
Right.
And I had a common problem. This is something you see in bodies all the time in yoga rooms, that there's not the proper stability between the pelvis and the torso. And so everybody has, when they're doing Asanas, they have this kind of arch.
Right, exactly.
And so I became a master of the art of arching.
Right.
So I knew exactly where to arch in order to hold the balance. Yeah.
Right.
And so John basically, through gymnastics techniques, fixed that. But you don't fix that kind of thing overnight.
No.
It's...
you have to get your body connected with your mind. And you have to know where you're at. Right?
Synaptic connections.
If you don't know where you're at, it's hard. And it's funny how you think, what I see as a gymnast, how you think your body's doing one thing, but it's doing something different.
Exactly.
You can have someone lie down and say, now make your body straight.
Yeah.
And they can be just like a snake.
Yeah.
And they think they're straight.
Yeah, exactly. Fascinating, no?
It is. It really is. What you think you're doing and what you're really doing are two different things. But as gymnasts, we're taught to really learn our bodies, so we can't perform the skill. There's no way to do that. If you're turning your head this way and you're throwing your arms this way, you're not going to be able to spin the way you thought you were.
Exactly.
But you think you're doing this, but you're not.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. I think what you're thinking about with John, I started working with John. John was originally my yoga student. And then we started doing things together kind of as a business 3 years ago, maybe. And at that point, he started looking at my handstand and started giving me some advice.
He couldn't take it anymore. He said, I can't. I'm sure it just drove him nuts.
I don't think that's John.
No, but in his mind. I'm
sure in his mind,
in his mind, he's thinking, I can't watch another minute of this.
Yeah.
This is torture.
It's like,
for a gymnast,
why is your belly out?
It's so easy for me to correct this. And he couldn't live with himself knowing that he was in your class and he didn't. It's like you having some rice on your face there and no one's saying anything, and you're going to take a photography section.
Exactly.
He couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. So I said, so let me say, how would you like to end this session? What would you like to say at the end of this?
My career has taken me, my path in life is taking me to teaching. And I teach yoga, and the way I teach yoga, if I don't see a student very often, they're not going to get the sense of it. They're going to come to my class, they're going to get some alignment instructions, sequence, some little bit of theme to get the mind to relax. But the students I work with a lot will quickly, they'll come to the understanding that basically I'm not so much just interested in fixing their bodies, but helping them understand themselves. You work with your body, and you have a body that's got tight shoulders. You can resist that. You can say, no, I have a dream that my arms are going to go to here. The smarter thing would be to say, oh, no, God gave me these arms. And this is my shoulder flexibility. And so I do the postures like this. And I can do really good postures, but some of them I can't do. So in that sense, it's, for me, yoga's knowing yourself. So I don't have any big advice for people.
That was great.
Beyond that, I mean, I can't lay out, oh, you should do this. You should get up at this hour and
But it's different for everyone.
It's different for everyone, yeah.
And I think your advice of saying, knowing yourself is for everyone.
Yeah. The challenge there is, of course, it's something easy to agree to. But it's like every morning you've got to get up and renew that commitment. It's not like, oh, okay, good. Thursday afternoon,
here's your
degree.
Yeah, I got my degree, I'm done.
Yeah.
I know myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work that way.
I agree. Michael, I want to thank you for your time.
This was fun.
It has been.
Thank you.
I enjoy it. And if I say namaste, is that said at the beginning or the end of a practice?
Well, to put that in context, it's you could say it either time.
Okay.
And I'm not Indian, and so I hesitate to talk about these things, but it's used as a common greeting in India, so that term. But you know what it means is the light that's divine in me greets or recognizes the light that's divine within you. In that sense, it's good if you understand the history or you understand the actual meaning of the word, because it's not something that's just ritual.
Gotcha, it has a deeper meaning.
And if you don't really recognize the deeper meaning, or forget deeper meaning, the actual meaning, maybe there's no reason to say it. But I say it.
And I said it too.
Yeah, it's meaningful.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for watching this podcast. Make sure you press like, subscribe, and never forget, it's all alone. Continue to reach for the stars, and you're too blessed to be stressed.